Today we're going to talk about our third grammar point, subject-verb agreement. So to continue from our last lesson, subject-verb agreement is when the subject of the sentence and the verb agree with one another. So if the subject is singular, the verb must also be in the singular form. And if the subject is plural, the verb is in a plural form. Let's look at this example. The chair leans against the table and the chairs lean against the table. Notice how when the subject changes, the verb also changes as well. Next, we're going to look at rules for subject-verb agreement. Here's rule 1. In many instances, in the present tense, nouns and verbs are made plural in opposite ways. To make a noun plural, you add an S to the singular form, but to make a verb plural, you remove the S from the singular form. Let's look at our first example. Here we have the bear runs away from the rabbit. The bear is our subject, runs is our verb. Bear is singular, it has no S, so we add an S to run to make runs, so the subject, bear, and our verb, runs, agree. Example 2 is the bears run away from the rabbit. Bears is our subject and is plural, so our verb has to match our subject, so we take the S away from runs, so our subject and our verb match. This rule can also be applied to helping verbs such as is, are, has, have, does, and do. Here we have some examples. He is walking home and they are walking home. He is a singular noun. Is the singular verb. They is the plural noun. Are is the plural verb. The same with the girl has vanished and the girls have vanished. Like many things with the English language, there are exceptions. This rule does not apply to the following verbs: can, could, shall, should, may, might, will, would, must. These stay the same. He can live with us, they can live with us. Rule number 2, compound nouns. A compound noun is when you have two singular nouns connected with and, like Peter and Jim. When you have a compound noun, you must use a plural verb. So Peter and Jim walk over to the corner store, not Peter and Jim walks over to the corner store. Rule 3 is collective nouns. A collective noun is a noun which names a group of things. Although there are many items within one group, it is still only one group and therefore is a singular noun and needs a singular verb. Examples of collective nouns: class, group, family, team, and jury. So we have the first example, the class makes its way to the library. The class is the collective subject, makes its way to the library. We have our verb. The next example is the classes make their way to the library. So we use a plural verb because classes has been made plural. Rule 4 is not so much a rule as it is a complication. So sometimes the placement of the subject and the verb can cause confusion when writing a sentence. The subject does not always come directly before the verb, which can result in some subject-verb agreement errors. So there are a few ways sentences can be complicated, but we're just going to focus on prepositional phrases. So a preposition is a word that shows a relationship between a noun and another element. Some common prepositions include of, in, for, with, on, and there are a bunch in that list there for you to look over. A prepositional phrase is a part of a sentence that interrupts the main sentence to show a relationship between the subject of the sentence and another element. This interruption is what complicates the subject-verb agreement. The classroom over there is completely empty. Over there shows where the classroom is. That is the prepositional phrase. The main idea of the article is to be aware of your surroundings. Of the article gives us more information about the main idea, and that is the prepositional phrase. The prepositional phrase often makes it difficult to identify the main verb because it interrupts the subject from the predicate. A good way to avoid this is to remember that the main subject of the sentence cannot be in the prepositional phrase. So if you identify the prepositional phrase first, you can figure out what the subject is. To avoid making subject-verb agreement mistakes, take time to identify the true subject of the sentence and then choose the correct verb form to match it.
Created using Powtoon.